Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Riv. And apologize for being a little late. My fault. This computer is slow. I got my VPN interfered. I would have been here right on time, but then again, I had a little meeting this morning of the retirement board. So,
Did they
uh,
get their cola?
yes, we did. We got the cola, which we should have gotten, and let's start the show with a shout out to our intrepid counselor Michelle Dionne for reading my letter uh,
Oh, definitely.
about our two inspirational retirees. Both men served in World War II and then served their city for over 30 years, and they're the unsung heroes. Not the ones we normally hear about. They're just the regular retirees, and like I said, everybody's got a story. And Michelle, I entrusted Michelle with that. She did a great job. I know there wasn't much comment except for Joe Camara, who had to say, "It wasn't us. It wasn't an elected official that called the retirees liabilities." And then Joe and I had a little conversation via text after the show because I texted him and said, "But you kept your mouth shut and let her call us that, didn't you?" And then he wrote back, "Don't put words in my mouth." And I said, "I'm not putting words in your mouth. I just gave you the definition of acquiescence, which means to agree by silence, to agree by assent by silence. You didn't say a word. If you objected to it, why didn't you object to the characterization of these people being called liabilities?" And after that, he kind of said something else, and I kind of said, "Well, you're the very definition of acquiescence. You didn't say anything. You acquiesced." So, but again, they love to make excuses. And, he made an excuse. There's no excuse for what they did. They allowed that to be said. They should have been immediately. Nobody should be able to, you know, Manny and Joe arresting in peace. They were great examples of most city employees. They went to war for their country. They came back to Fall River and they worked for this city 131 years, 134 years, and just collected their checks, did their work, kept this city running, doing the day to day, everyday stuff with no fanfare, no giant pay raises. They had to fight for every nickel that they ever got. And the thanks they get is they outlived their pension and they got to beg for every dime. So if you think that when people like Joe Camara try to make excuses and say, "Well, I wasn't, I don't, it wasn't me that said it," yes, you did. You allowed it to be said. And remember what Nehemiah said about the Holocaust. When they came for me, there was no one left to speak. Well, if you don't speak up, it means you agree with whatever is being done. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, I'll tell you, I have to give Michelle credit as well. She read that letter during the moment of silence that is given at every city council meeting. She thought that was a better time for it. And the thing that really, I don't want to say make me laugh, but the thing that made me take note was the fact that they didn't try to shut her down. They let her read the entire letter, which was a good thing. And while it may be difficult for people to understand why it's a good thing, a lot of times even when Michelle tries to bring things up at the city council meeting, she gets shut down, especially from particular city councilors who say they're all for you but vote the opposite way, or people who actually don't say they're for you and vote against you because they're controlled by the mayor or the dictator. And you got to give her credit. I mean, she went out there in those boots on the weekend for the parade and for the Memorial Day events, and she looked like a regular Pier 14 hooker. I'm telling you now.
Oh, well, no, you're right. Listen, You know, the same people who wouldn't allow us to speak uh, when the retirees got screwed by having the fifth member appointed by the mayor by circumventing the law, shut up. He has the right to do it. They didn't want to talk about how we got there by bending the law. See, these are the people that infuriate you because they have selective amnesia. Oh, yeah, it's okay. But it was Joe Camara that was gaveling me and saying, stop it, don't talk. No, that's right, you don't want to hear the truth. I had proof of everything I said. Perak told you. And then people who supposedly are on our side, like Cliff Ponte, well, the retirement board screwed up, and then he blamed us. He actually blamed the two elected officials, and Michelle had to correct them. Again, Michelle to the rescue. The two city appointees acted in violation of their fiduciary obligation to get a neutral fifth member to allow the mayor to pick it, which is prohibited by statute, by CMR, and by Perak memo. All three. And I'll give you the statutes, and I'm not reading them. See, both hands are here. I'm not looking down. Okay, Perak memo, number 28, 2017. CMR, 804, 1.01. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32, Section 23, Sub 3. And I think it's actually CMR 840. I have a problem with a little minor dyslexia once in a while. I transfer numbers in my brain and I have to reshuffle them. But it's prohibited by all of those things. State statute, Commonwealth of Massachusetts regulations, and Perak regulations. And they did it. But see, we don't get to talk about it. Like you said, they shut you down. You've sent letters, I've sent information, we sent facts. They ignore them. They don't want to tell the truth. They want you to listen to their narrative and everything is wonderful. What they want you to see is the pictures of the water taxi. Look at the trolley. That's what they want to do. And I heard, CJ, because I was actually on the road for part of that meeting, I heard that Rumsey got he got his butt handed to him last night.
By Michelle Dionne.
Expand on that a little bit, will you?
Yeah. What?
I said expand on that a little bit.
Well, his opinions in regards to the Bank Street Armory were flawed. And Michelle had to bring it out. He said that nowhere is there a restriction on the use of the Bank Street Armory. Michelle had to present to him, or present to the city council, a copy of the deed restriction, an agreement entered into by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the city of Fall River. He said that nowhere in ordinance was it that the park board controls the Bank Street Armory. Michelle read right from the code, the book, which is about yay thick. It's a huge, thick book. Read it directly from there and said that the city council gave the park board the right to oversee and manage the Bank Street Armory for the benefit of the city of Fall River. So we obviously have either a law department which not only took their bar in crayon, but they couldn't even get it in crayon right. Or B, as was told to us by one of his former supervisors or one of his former employers. They wanted to get rid of him because he couldn't do his job. He wanted a promotion, but he didn't want to work for it. Am I wrong? Isn't that what we heard?
Yeah, that's what you heard. And isn't it ironic that you have people on that city council that was sitting in the chamber when the council gave the park board the authority,
That's
and
right.
they got political amnesia again, saved by the Michelle, not by the Bell, by the Michelle. Saved again because Michelle does her homework and she had to read it, remind them. And I don't know how many times we have to tell people in this community, do not listen to the propaganda. Do not listen to the narrative. Check the facts, do your homework, educate yourself. The Corporation Council is not a freaking judge. The City Council is not a court. He goes down there and gives his opinion. And legal opinions are like anal sphincters. Everybody's got one. Some work better than others. And in the case of most corporation councils who work for mayors, theirs don't work very well. And they shit their pants an awful lot when they're pressed in a real court. All they do is say whatever the mayor wants them to say. The mayor's not going to let go of that armory ever. He doesn't let go of anything. He wants his way. He is like a spoiled child. Rumsey should know that. That was discussed. That deed restriction was discussed. We watched the discussion. These people have the memory of a gnat, but it's not lack of memory. It's lack of honesty, lack of competency, and political amnesia. It's a malady that runs rampant in politics and is of epidemic proportion in Fall River politics. None of these people can remember anything accurately. They're always complaining about the retirement system. They forgot that they put us there. Today they all wanted to be on board. Oh yeah, we love you guys. Have your cola. Yeah, the pittance. It's a pittance. I got stats in my briefcase that'll horrify you. And I will read them a little bit later on. But CJ, comment on that, please.
On what? There's so much to comment on.
Well, give it a little bit of hell. I'm going to go over to my briefcase and pull that thing. Okay.
That's fine. Okay. I mean, it's tough when you have to fight to get a measly $300 a year as a COLA. I mean, you get more of a COLA for Social Security lately. But again, the system is set up not to protect the retiree. The system is set up to protect the city, it seems. It seems. The law says you're supposed to be fiduciaries representing the members. But in our retirement board, we have two people who represent the mayor and two people which represent the retirees. And I don't know what that fifth person represents yet. It's still too soon to tell. But we'll soon be able to tell. I have to get back to Michelle, though, because I'll tell you, she had a very interesting night. Very interesting night. She called out more than one thing last night. And I hope people were paying attention to what she was talking about. And what I thought was interesting, because I only found out about it yesterday, I sent you a copy, Bob. I also sent one to a potential candidate for mayor. and a potential candidate for city council yesterday. Uh, and that's the fact that the city has released the fiscal 25 budget. They actually handed it out to the city council at the last city council meeting. They kind of like plopped it on their desks, and nobody kind of knew, which I found interesting. And the other thing I find very interesting, okay, is the fact that they printed up, like they do every year, that budget, and they have glorious color pictures on the cover of the trolley, the used trolley that we spent $77,000 on. And I have to bring this up because if you remember the last show, I said that the mayor was charging fares on the trolley. And I said, he can't do that. The trolley's supposed to be free because it hasn't even gone into ordinance yet. The fares were finally sent to the ordinance committee last night. But yesterday, I don't know if it's in response to our comments on the show or what it was, but yesterday an announcement came out from Government Center that the trolley shall run for free for now. Because remember, we got to follow the law. And if there's no law saying how much the fare is, and there's no policy, then you can't collect the fare. Just another way to screw you. Just another way to screw you. And remember, we need to be very, very, very cognizant of what they are doing. And for those of you who, like Jeff, who pay attention to the budget and whatnot, budget hearings or budget meetings, which by the way are a joke, are going to be held Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. And if necessary, the following Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It shouldn't be if necessary, it should be required. They should be picking that budget apart, not sitting there listening to department heads going, well, we need this and we need that, and that's where it comes from, and blah, blah, blah. And do nothing. Don't ask any questions. Don't cut the budgets. Don't say, is this necessary? Is this required? Don't turn around and say, well, you have these positions funded but not filled. Are they required? If not, let's get rid of them now. Let's save some money for the taxpayer. They don't do that. The city council abdicates its responsibility. And the way that happens is you get someone like Michelle Dionne who says we need to cut this, or she makes a motion to reject the entire budget. The city council passes it, surprisingly, and then Rumsey turns around and says, you can't reject the entire budget. You got to take action on that budget. You didn't take action. What the hell is action then? If rejecting the budget isn't action, what is? I don't know. But you now have the schedule for the budget hearing meetings or the budget meetings, whatever it may be, next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and the following Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Keep that schedule open and keep watching it on TV because you need to know where your money's going and how much more money they're going to take out of your pocket. Because remember, there's no other way for them to pay the bills except to rob the taxpayer.
Yeah, well, you're definitely right, CJ, but because, liars, figures don't lie, but liars can figure, and they manipulate all their numbers, and it's unfortunate, but they keep talking about, well, there's no reason for discussion because everything Paul says is gospel for most of those people, and even if they do talk about them, with the exception of Michelle, they don't really care. But I'm going to give you some staggering numbers, and this is what infuriates me, that it's only unique to these poorer cities. The people who make the least get screwed the most, but that's normal with politicians. They don't care about poor people. But these are the numbers hot off the presses today, broken down for this 3%. Let me make this clear. This is not 3%. Fall River is one of the last two Massachusetts cities and towns to have a $12,000 COLA base. Everybody has a larger COLA base. That is the original COLA base created when the retirement system created COLA bases. And they don't want to give us anything, because what the hell, we're only one of the poorest cities. Why should the poorest people get a COLA base that will give it? So it's not 3%. This is the con. Oh, they got 3%. When Social Security gets a pay raise, it's 3%. If you got a $100,000 pension, you get 3% of $100,000. If you got 50,000, you get 3% of 50,000. You get 3% of the total amount. It's not 3%. These are the actual numbers, and you're going to be horrified, because these people worked virtually their entire lives for the city of Fall River, just like Manny and Joe did. We have 200. Remember, there's approximately, like 1,500 or so of these people that are affected. But we have 285 retirees who are living on less than $12,000 a year. That's what I said. $12,000 a year. Below $12,000 gross. $1,000 a month. $250 a week. They're entitled to food stamps, they're entitled to everything, and they work their whole lives. That's a travesty. And the city doesn't want to give these people a COLA sometime. They don't want to increase the COLA base. Oh, no. So that's 285 living below 12,000. We have additional 245 that are living between 12,000 and 18,000. Before, that's gross. The average pension in the city is 30,000, which is fundamentally the per capita average in the city. But that's the average, because the highest pension that we have is 141,000 for some very high paid employees, but they're not the regular workers. And the lowest pension we have is 713. The median pension is $25,000. So we have the median. So that means that most of these people do not get 3%. The only people who get 3% are basically these people that are making like $12,000 a year. The people who are making the median pension, it's the average pension, it's a 1.19%, 1.19 increase in their pension. And that's an average pension. Some of them are actually getting less. The people with the highest pensions are getting 0.25, a 0.25% increase. Not that they need it with those higher pensions, but still, is it fair? No. And this is the thing. This is the system they want to underfund. This is the system they don't want to help. And it's their fiduciary obligation to do so. And they're appointed and ex officio people are supposed to be on board. Well, they were all amped up today. They're on board because they knew that these things have become a discussion. But let's make it perfectly clear. When this is submitted to the city council, I made a request, at the meeting today, and there were numerous retirees there. They heard me make the request that these numbers be reviewed for the council to let the council know this is not a 3% pay raise. This is like 1.1% on an average. Most people are getting not even half a 3%. So, again, how can you tell what a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. How can you tell that a politician doesn't care about you? Well, there's two metrics for that. Do you make over $100,000 a year? They like you. If you give to their campaign and hold a sign for them, they like you. If you're just a regular person that's trying to pay a mortgage on $12,000 or less a year, your taxes, I mean, they don't like you. They don't care about you. It's the reality. If you look at the link we had for the New Bedford meeting, the guy who was complaining about the people getting screwed, he understood. He said he pays nearly $10,000 a year in taxes in New Bedford. I'm sure he's got a nice home. But imagine having a house that they're charging you $10,000 a year for taxes, and you're making 12. Even if they're charging you $5,000 now, let's do the math. We'll say $12,000, not $11,000 or $10,000 like some people are making. Let's do the math. We'll use $12,000 a year. Your tax bill's $6,000. You got $6,000 left. Your water bill's going to be $3,000 or $2,000. We give them $2,000. We'll give them the benefit of lower. We're up to $8,000. So you got $4,000 to pay all the rest of your bills. And these people will say, oh no, I wasn't in favor of them being called liabilities. Well, what the hell are we then? If you're not concerned enough, if you truly represent these people, why aren't you calling our state reps and saying, let's change this system? We have to have a base. We can't have 85 and 90-year-old people living on $250 a week and losing homes that would have been paid for 40 or 50 years. It's not moral. It's just not right. But do you ever hear them say that? No. They just say, oh, we didn't call them liabilities. We just let somebody else call them that. So if you think this meeting got me a little fired up about it, you're right.
Interesting. It's always interesting when you talk about being a liability. I can't accept it. Speaking of liabilities, how much does the top paying secretary in the city of Fall River get starting July 1st?
Over $100,000.
Exactly. $100,088. A $4,500 pay increase according to the budget book. And do you know who that glorified secretary is? The mayor's chief of staff, Ann O'Neill. So she gets paid all that money to answer your questions and be a glorified representative of the mayor. That position was created by Ed Lambert many, many moons ago to give his then girlfriend, I think now wife, a job, because she was a secretary, a glorified job with a pay raise by calling her chief of staff. And not one mayor since has ever decided to get rid of that position, a position which I consider to be unnecessary and a waste of money. We saw the hazards with the previous chief of staff. We saw the corruption that can happen there. And we see the corruption every day with this administration. When ARPA money is used to either buy or contract the water taxi service to allow somebody like Mike Lund to generate a profit from it, and the city's not getting a dime of that, I have a problem. Did the city pay to paint the boats? Did the city buy the boats? Does Mike Lund own the boats and he's leasing them to the city? Or is Mike Lund just running them himself for the ARPA money? Which, by the way, once that ARPA fund dries up, those water taxis may dries up. Because if there's no money to run them, if Mike Lund's not making a profit, would you want to do it? Get your rides in now because you may not have them next year. Because remember, this is a pilot program for this summer only. And it's only on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I guess the rest of the week doesn't matter.
Well, most people don't drink on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
No.
They start going to the bar rooms toward the weekend. So that's where the water taxi is going, to the bar rooms.
That's why the Tipsy Seagull and the Tipsy Toboggan and Pier 52 and all of those things down by the Borderline Marina are open because nobody drinks.
Well, yeah, but let's get back to the chief of staff's job. Like you said, it was created by a mayor to give his girlfriend a raise. First, he was giving her a paycheck from the city and then a paycheck from CDA, too.
Right.
Doing CDA work. Then that wasn't enough money. We had to figure out a way to give him more money. So what we did was we created a title, Chief of Staff. So it's like creating a title. You want to give all the custodians in the high school and give them an idea for collective bargaining. Change your name to sanitary engineers, and then you're going to get a big pay raise because now you're an engineer. You're not a custodian. Well, listen, this city does not need a chief of staff. This guy is not the president of the United States running a country. He's not the governor, and even they don't really need it. These are all manufactured jobs for their friends. $100,000 in his city, double the household income of the average family in Fall River, the median average. For doing what? Carlton Viveris ran this city when we had more people, a larger fire department, larger police department, larger DPW. We had snow removal trucks. We had a lot more things we had to do for services. And he had 2 secretaries. No chief of staff, and they were making peanuts. But now we got a chief of staff. Sounds great on paper. That's what they do, create these jobs. Deputy superintendent of schools. Assistant deputy. Assistant to the assistant. Grand poobah. But the people that are making the $30,000, $35,000 a year salaries that exist in the city of Fall River, the regular retirees, who when they retire outlive their pensions, they don't get those kind of pay raises. And I know that from the fact. I know a employee of the city who actually had to retire She made so little money after working at City Hall for, I believe, 20 years. She was only making in the 30s. She had a very serious illness. And she wiped out all her sick leave, and people donated some sick leave, but they weren't going to donate all of their sick leave, and she ran out of it. And the city basically said, well, that's it. We're not going to pay you. You're out of sick time. And we're not going to pay you because you're not coming to work. And I sat in those meetings trying to get her covered for the medical procedures and stuff. There was a question about the procedures. And I watched this city throw her to the wolves to the point where she had to retire to get a paycheck, get a reduced pension, a drastically reduced pension. Move out of her Fall River home and go to live with her mother down in the Cape, because she could not survive. The only way she could get a check is a retirement check, even though it was smaller. The city was going to stop her pay. True story. I'm going to probably see her this week when I go down to the Cape for the retirement seminar. Give her a call, see how she's doing. And the only good news of this tragic story, which is just one of many, of a regular employee, is that we ultimately prevailed with the medical issue, and we got her covered for the necessary medical procedures she needed. So at least now she's healthy. Poor, but healthy. So when these politicians start telling you how much they really care about you and how engaged they are with you as a regular person, forgive me if I don't believe them, because I've seen far too much evidence to the contrary. And with that, CJ, back to you.
It's definitely, I remember that case. That's the one that needed treatment out of state, if I remember correctly.
That
And
is
you had to fight
correct,
for that.
CJ. That is
Yeah,
correct.
you had to fight for that. So, and that was a tough case. I remember you busting your back on that one. And we spoke about it on the show a few times, and it just, I couldn't believe they would treat somebody like that. They treat rats in this city better than they treat some of their retirees and their employees. That's for sure, especially under this administration. So it makes for an interesting time. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay hangry, and hold your politicians accountable. We will see you on Friday. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather while you can.